All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be talking to an individual set to defend his featherweight championship November 9th, and that goes down in Billings, Montana. BKFC DAZN Montana, headlined by quite the fight here with Jimmie Rivera taking on Kai Stewart, challenging King Kai for that featherweight title, and great to have Kai Stewart on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. How's it going, man?
Going real good. We just got here to Montana on Friday of this last weekend, and now we're just counting down the days. I'm training back in my old stomping grounds, Great Falls. I came up here to acclimate to the elevation change. I've been training my camp out in uh, Spokane, Washington, and I'm just ready to get this show on the road. I feel like I could have fought this dude 10 weeks ago. I feel great, look great, and now it's just time to dance.
Yeah, it's interesting too because we've done previous interviews, and it seems like this is like the sort of fight that you were kind of like hoping for a certain bit, just at least satisfying that certain criteria of taking on some bigger names, like people who maybe have a certain level of combat cachet, for lack of a better way to phrase it. Like, does this Rivera fight fit within that to you, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jimmie Rivera fits that UFC transplant guy as the BKFC 1.0 model. A lot of talk has been going around. Chris Lights Out Lytle and Sean Willock, they were all talking about me potentially being that BKFC 2.0. And my next stop, what I need to do is beat this ex UFC guy and send him on his merry way back to his donut shop. And I am the face of the company. I made my pro debut in bare knuckle, and that's just it's unheard of. And I'm gonna beat all these guys. I'm a professional athlete. I'm an elite athlete, and this is my opportunity to shine.
Yeah, there's just so many, I guess, factors in your favor or things that are just working out so well for you in a certain regard. Like, I mean, just being 24 years old and poised to defend this title for the third time. And I think you're someone who very much should be within that pound for pound rankings hierarchy at this point. So it just seems like there's so much going for you at this point. And you talk about the BKFC 2.0 sort of thing. I do feel like you really just fit that description for sure. Just in as far as like I think like the perceptions, at least early on, some people had from I guess bare knuckle is like it's a lot of people coming in who already have some sort of like I guess deeply established sort of resume or presence within another sport. Whereas like you're someone who kind of looked at the MMA landscape and you're like, yeah, I could do that, but it's also a bit of an oversaturated market. I'll focus on something like this. I feel like this is the sort of thing that acts as like a driver going forward as far as like people prioritizing it as like that sole sort of thing that they want to do, as opposed to like, building up some sort of, I guess, resume in another combat sport and then coming over, I suppose.
Yeah, it all kind of just happened so quickly. I didn't really have a want or a need to do bare knuckle, and then one thing led to another. I'm a good ticket seller. They needed ticket sellers. I won my debut actually in the Metro Park at in Billings here, and we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp of that because yeah, bare knuckle bare knuckle chose me. I guess is the easiest way to say it. I'm grateful, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. They could come at me with a UFC offer, and I'd say no. I'm bare knuckle, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're showing just like such a focus too, because I feel like all those factors considered, like maybe someone who is such a young fighter in the game and is already in such like a high place of prominence, like maybe one could like rest on the laurels or something of that persuasion. But it feels like you're very much locked in for this one, and as far as like perceiving it as your toughest fight and really, I guess, just touting the high level of experience that Jimmie brings to the table. Is that something that might be rooted in, I guess, like the wrestling base, like in as far as that groundedness and just the focus on the next task at hand and not resting on any kind of laurels? And I guess I don't even mean purely competitively also, because I feel like I've seen different things where like you're out and about with like Rick Ross and different people like that. Like I feel like the classic story of the fighter, especially like a younger fighter, in like a very generalized way, obviously, is like sometimes they could maybe like lose a bit of perspective or get like lost in that sort of thing. Like I guess what keeps you so grounded and locked in and still focused on the immediate task at hand?
It, I train, so I would say I generate that a little bit from wrestling, a little bit of mindset training, a little bit of respect for Jimmie. I do not think Jimmie possesses what it takes to beat me, especially in bare knuckle, my sport. This is my sport. And but in our mindset training, there's not one task that's going to be greater than the next. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to wake up, train, and compete, which is what I love to do, and I get to do it for money. So wins, losses, titles, money, that's all gonna come. I'm doing all of this for the love of the sport. So if I'm not putting my best foot forward in my training, the wins and losses won't. It doesn't matter who I'm fighting. The wins and losses, like there's going to be no guarantees. But if I do everything properly and have fun doing it, it the result really doesn't matter. So I just need to be doing all the right things because I want to be here. I get to be here. So yeah, and then wrestling, you got to let me be real. I've lost to people in wrestling that on paper I should never ever lose to. So just back to it. If you're not evolving, you're going to get your ass kicked. So I'm constantly evolving in the gym. I respect Jimmie Rivera's legacy, what he's done in the past, the names that he's beat, the names he's tangled with. But in the end, it's me versus me, and that's what helps keep me grounded. I have financial goals. I achieved my goal of becoming a world champion. So now I'm on free time. Like all these other fighters that are in their 40s never been a world champion. Jimmie Rivera at 34 never been a world champion. It's like their clock's ticking. They have pressure. I did what I need to do. Now I just want to make enough money to give myself a future that I'm going to be really proud to live. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess just in terms of like I guess like the financial comfortability component, or are you more like touching on maybe like some different goals that you have going forward, I guess?
I would just say financial comfortability. I mean, now I do have a lot of competitive goals that have nothing to do with money. Like I do want to become a double champ. I do want to fight O'Malley and beat his ass in any sport. I'm good with UFC, bare knuckle, anything. But I do want that fight. King of Montana, let's do it. Um, but yeah, I just fighters do not always get happy endings, and it's like more often than not fighters don't get happy endings. I'm fighting for my happy ending now. Like I've achieved the like I have 3 belts that just sit around, you know? I don't need any more belts, but having that financial comfortability is what I'm fighting for at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense, man, for sure. It's just such an interesting time in many regards, like just even like the connectivity with, Conor McGregor now being so prevalent within the brand, just now
You
being like a
have
partial owner.
no idea. You have no idea because it's like I've gotten to speak with him a little bit behind the scenes, and I do think that he's on Team Kai getting to be BKFC 2.0, and so that's my longtime idol, and it's idol becoming a mentor almost, in a way. I don't want to overstep because he is a boss in the company, but I do think that a lot of people are connecting my rise in the BKFC to what he did, and what he did in the UFC is going to be you can't match that. You just can't. Like he did amazing things, but I do think that he sees me as the potential breakout star that can help get BKFC over that hump. So I'm super pumped. Like I'll let you finish your question, but I got so giddy with the Conor McGregor thing that I had to go with it. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, why are you fanboying over him?" And it's like it's not even that I'm fanboying over him. I've manifested all of this. I've wanted to have the opportunity to compete in front of Conor McGregor. And a lot of these people is like, you should be thinking that about yourself. And I'm like, I do think that about myself, but how cool is it that Conor McGregor is our boss? Like, let's go. Let's take pride in that. BKFC is going to hit a new level. And honestly, it would have taken a lot longer. I do think Bare Knuckle would have gotten there, but we're getting fast tracked to mainstream, and it's with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, and even someone who I guess just like has spent so much time writing just articles about just combat sports in general. I mean, McGregor is such like a constant driver. Like pretty much anything he says or does seemingly gets like articles written about it, and they are generally like the articles that get checked out the most. So even in terms of like I guess like the signal boosting kind of component, like it seems like it's really just made BKFC that much more of a talking point. Like I always felt like it was on people's radars, but now even more so. And I guess like one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on, it's not really like a question, but more of an observation, I suppose, because there's that photo from like many years ago before McGregor was a fighter where like he was like posted up with Chuck Liddell and stuff like that. And then there was like that photo many years later where it was like McGregor with Ian Gary. And it was almost like McGregor was now in the role of like the guy getting looked up to. And I believe there was like a DM interaction where McGregor reached out to you after seeing you take a photo with a younger sort of fan. I mean, it's just so cool to see that just like the chain of inspiration. Like, I mean, who knows? Maybe that person you took a photo with ends up pursuing this path because of just what you're doing.
Well, it's funny you say that. So, obviously, the path that I'm on is crazy, and I don't like bare knuckle is just so brutal. Like, I do think it's one of the best sports in the world. But that youth that I took that picture with, I actually pointed him out, and we got talking. Then they asked me for a photo, but I said, "Oh, are you a youth fighter?" And because he had the Muay Thai, what are they called? Mongols. He had a Muay Thai Mongol on his bag and some headgear, and it was a youth. So I saw it was like, "You guys fighters," and it was on my way home from winning my world title. So I had two belts on me. Like it was a really cool interaction. I do think like yeah, I also coach youth wrestlers. This year is going to be kind of hard just because of like everything's blowing up. I'm going to do my best to be at the tournaments that I can make. Um, but I that's what I want. I was a kid, a dirt poor kid in Montana that had wrestling coaches that wanted me to succeed. So I like that's a passion of mine that I want to use my career um to help give kids a place to grind, get them out of Montana. Montana is a lovely place, but there's so much world to see. So if yeah, shoot for the stars is what I want to do.
And I guess circling back to a point that you had mentioned that seems very much in line with shooting for the stars. Like I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't get maybe a bit of clarity on what second title you might be eyeing. Like I guess like my brain immediately went to thinking maybe 135 was the focus because you had mentioned O'Malley, but maybe the lightweight belt is the one you're more focused on. Like, I guess if things kind of unfold in your most ideal way, like, is the move to either get a fight with Alberto Blas or Franco Tenaglia, just the bantamweight and lightweight champions currently?
The So I know that Alberto Blas has already been very outspoken to go down and fight John Dodson, and Alberto Blas is another homegrown guy. So him moving down is going to delay the 135 division. So I could definitely see that fight down the road, down in the future. But I think that he's doing good things, doing his thing against a UFC guy. Give him his shot to go to 125. I don't need to chase that. Uh, the weight cut for bare knuckle to 35 is going to be tough, and I would definitely do it if the opportunity arose. But I think 155 for boxing related stuff is definitely more of a fit. I think the Teneglia fight is a very, very, very good matchup for me, and I think that I can definitely get that done. I do hear rumors of Howard Davis was the backup fighter, and we all saw what I did to him. respectfully, I think that he is one of my best opponents that I've went against. He is another homegrown star in bare knuckle, but we did see what I did to him in Utah, and if he gets that belt, I want first dibs. I don't care what I have to do. I'll crawl through glass to get that fight because I'll just go to 155, and I think the fight's going to be even worse for him because I've grown, I've matured so much since that fight, and we see a very similar Howard Davis.
That's interesting. What do you think it is that kind of informs all of this growth? Because even just from like a layman viewership perspective kind of thing, I could definitely see that in you. Like I can't really speak to like Howard necessarily like in a negative way, but just like speaking to like these different changes you make on a fight to fight basis. Like, do you think that's more of just you analyzing the tape on yourself and seeing what needs to be done to, I guess, be shifted or optimized? Is that like a thing that's done in concert with like the tremendous physical effort you put into it? Because yeah, it does seem like you're demonstrably getting better fight to fight.
Yeah, so first off, Eagle Stone Boxing Club, Coach Coral, he is an amateur. It's an amateur boxing club, and I say that I make it a point to say that because I did not want to stand and bang with nobody in my 10 amateur MMA fights. 2 weeks prior to my bare knuckle fight, I really started focusing on my boxing, and that was in October, end of September of 2021. I'm still so new in boxing, and uh, I'm a very good learner. So I basically am starting fresh slate. That's why we're seeing exponential growth. Not to mention my strength and conditioning is getting tremendously better working long term with Coach Dylan Lemery with DL Training Systems. It's truly different. The DL difference is what we all say. Uh, and then mindset. There's always the pursuit of greatness. You know, some days I'll wake up and I can feel myself. I need to work on this area, uh, this area, back and forth. But yeah, I'm a student of the sport, and I'm so new to my boxing. That's why we see me changing. This fight that we see against Jimmie Rivera is going to be an entirely different me than what we saw against Brian Duran. Obviously, I'm not going to get away what got me to the dance and what works and what like I'm passionate as a wrestler. I'm just going to make this fight dirty, nasty with a lot of really really slick footwork, slick technique, and it we can safely say that I embody bare knuckle fighting because I'm not a boxer. I am a wrestler. I'm learning how to box, but I'm also going to make this a dirty dog fight. So I think that embodies because it's not bare knuckle boxing, it's bare knuckle fighting championship. So yeah, that's the perspective I take every single day. I just get better, get better. If you're not evolving, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, well said, man. And I do want to be mindful of your time, but I feel like there's a couple more questions that I kind of wanted to put out to you while I still have you, just because
Yeah.
before you were mentioning the Sean O'Malley fight being something that you almost see as an inevitability. Like I'm kind of like paraphrasing a bit there, obviously, but I guess I'm just curious, like to get some breakdowns from you because you're a bit of a cerebral dude to say the least. Like, I mean, I can tell that from how you're breaking things down here and how you seem to just look at the game overall. So I guess just giving the breakdown here, like how do you see a UFC fight playing out with Sean O'Malley? And then conversely, how would you see like a BKFC fight playing out if he were to choose to lose the gloves and come over?
Well, first off, I think his best option at a victory against me would be in bare knuckle. So I would prefer him to come to bare knuckle because it's my sport. But on paper, he's a really, really, really good striker, you know. And I come from a wrestling background. He has no respect for wrestlers, and it's like, okay, put up or shut up. But a UFC fight, I want to say that I do more than Marab did. One, because I'm a big guy. Whenever I cut to 135, like I'm gonna be huge for that weight class. Uh, and my distance control, my footwork, is very good, and that's what we saw Marab do. I would probably strike more with O'Malley just to prove that I am bare knuckle if we did an MMA fight. But that distance control that we saw Marab have, I that's how you take away O'Malley. You have to be in and out and you have to dictate it. And I believe that I can do that to O'Malley all day. I could run circles around him with my footwork. I think his best route to victory, like I said, I'm rephrasing this because I want to give homie a chance, but would be to come to bare knuckle, take the gloves off and fight. And he said that I suck, so come show me that I suck. Please come show me how bad I suck. Come on.
And I guess just like the last one, while I still have you, because obviously that's a fun fight to think about. But as we're talking about something that will manifest down the line, I guess just in terms of like the locked in, defined next chapter in your story, like how does this Jimmie Rivera fight play out? Like, do you have a certain, I guess, reoccurring visualization for how the fight ends or a certain crystallized idea of how things are going to play out at all for this one?
Well, overall, the game plan never changes. The game plan is to break him. I'm going to break Jimmie Rivera. He's been in a lot of long fights, long wars. He goes to decision with a lot of people. So I think it's a tougher nut to crack, but I'm going to crack it and I'm going to break him. Then I'm going to step on his throat and I'm going to take this from him. Uh, he thinks that he's trying to take this belt from me. I'm trying to take the rest of his career from him. I do think that he doesn't really have a route if he doesn't get this belt. So that's where I want this more. This is my time. He has already not bet on himself by going to get his policeman job. And hats off to him. Thank you for serving our country. It's great for you, but it shows that he's unwilling to bet on himself and his fighting future to provide what he needs. And so that's where yeah, I just want to grind it out. I want to grind it out. And there's also a specific combo that I want to knock him out with. I do think that game plan to game plan. Just know it's a number we made up. It's not a made up number. Obviously, numbers exist, but we made this combo up. Whenever you hear me say it on the mic, if I knock him out with it, just know that I'm talking about the number right now. And it's a number that you're not gonna miss. So yeah, whenever I knock him out with it, that's gonna be awesome. Because if I can get him knocked out quick, if I can get him out in there first, second round, no cuts, and I can get back into camp, I would love to go to the Philly card. And I'm not overlooking Jimmy at all. Like I have trained like this is going to be the hardest war of my career. However, I've said that about every single one of my fights. And I just don't think Jimmy's going to have that on me. I do think he's going to be slower than me. He is shorter than me. Now, I was the short fighter one time, so I'm not going to count on that. But just sparring guys his size, I've been doing very, very, very well. So I just think every aspect of this game, I beat Jimmy in, and he talked about wanting to go grit for grit with me and dog for dog, and he's just not him. He's not that guy for sure. There's a lot of things you maybe could have said you could knock me out. You may say this, you may say that, but nobody has a bigger dog in their soul than me.
It's been great getting to talk to you. And I mean, this could probably even serve as like the parting thought in and of itself. And I'm sure I could ask you a ton more questions, but I definitely want to be mindful to your busy schedule, Kai. So I figured I'd give you the floor in case there was any final parting thought you were wanting to add as we're wrapping up here, man.
Yeah, well, November 9th is actually a real special night. They're doing an amateur prospect series on there with 6 amateur fights. And my girlfriend is the amateur main event. So super pumped for her. Dakota Rough Roads. She has, fun fact, been my primary mitt holder for the last 2 fight camps. Well, 2.5 fight camps, really. And even against 6'4" Howard Davis, 5'4" Dakota Rough Roads. Her and I, we game plan and we kick people's asses. So now it's her turn. She's gonna win her fight, and it's gonna be a really really good time. Um, but yeah, final thoughts, man. I am BKFC 2.0, and November 9th is my time to prove it. And overall, I'm just grateful for the opportunity, win, lose, or draw. I'm gonna leave that arena with a smile on my face because I'm putting every ounce that I have into this. So whatever happens is meant to happen, and that's part of the human experience. We just there's some things we don't have control in. What I do have control in, I've done very very good at, and I've been pretty perfect this camp, and we're injury free. We feel great, and thank you to all my sponsors, my top sponsors, Harvey Singh. He's actually one of my sponsors is fighting on that amateur card too. He just got the itch and said, let's go. Harvey Singh Contracting, Silverleaf Dispensary. Native Grown is the best flower in the state because they have my strain, Legend OG by Native Grown. That is 35%. It slaps you in the face and it makes you feel great. So we'll have that out at the fight. And, thank you for everybody for believing in me because nobody believed in me until now, which there's still going to be haters. People are waiting for the downfall, and we're just going to keep grinding. We're going to keep going. That's what I got. That's all I got. I tried.
No, I mean, well said, man. It's just super cool to hear about, Dakota's fight, just because it seems like you keep your team relatively small. Like people like Sean Ibsen and Dave Evans stand out, and it seems like Dakota is very much within that. So just cool things to hear all around, man. That's awesome.
Yep. And then last little shout out, I mentioned him during the interview, but Coral um, Devereaux, Devereaux. I suck at pronouncing last names, but Coach Coral with Eaglestone Boxing Club out in Spokane, Washington. Hats off to him. He is. I love him and his family. They love us. Me and my girlfriend love them, and it's a really cool thing. He's actually from Browning, Montana. Doesn't get much more Montana than that. Very grateful for him, and yeah, all that's left to do now is dance, man. And if you ever want me back on the podcast outside of fight camp, there's a lot of convenient times. Let's get one up, and then next fight camp, just hit me up with plenty of time, and we can get it done as well, because this is fun, and I wish I had a little bit more time to answer more questions, but because this is fun. I could do this all day. The camera is what I love most about this sport. I just have a lot of business to take care of these next few days.
Oh yeah, no worries. Definitely understood, man. We'll get something going at another juncture, like you said, maybe like a bit before whenever the next one may be. But just really want to show my appreciation for making the time now ahead of this Jimmie Rivera fight. Should be a great one, November 9th. And people can check that out on DAZN, BKFC, DAZN Montana. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Bare Knuckle Bowker, and looking forward to the next time we talk, man. But until then, you have a good rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Just hit me up anytime.